Welcome, 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 everyone, to our very first inaugural session of the Yeshua and Mary Magdalene channelings with Mercedes Kirkel. I'm Savannah Rose, and I'm going to be assisting in this webinar today. I'm kind of your MC today, and I'll be leading you through a few things. I'm going to introduce you to Mercedes. I guess that's all I'm going to say right now. Welcome, Mercedes.
Hi, and thank you, Savannah and Claire, both for helping out with this webinar today. And thank you to everyone who has joined us. So I just wanted to give a little background about this event and how it came about. So it started a few months ago when I got the guidance that it was time to start collecting all this incredible teaching I have been given, both from Mary Magdalene and from other beings of light too. And out of that, what came about was the guidance that I was supposed to start a new spirituality, which we're calling communion. And this is based largely on Mary Magdalene's teaching that she's brought forth, but also these other teachings too. And then a little bit after that, I got the guidance that I was supposed to help people to understand what communion actually is, that there's a whole body of principles and teachings, and it's really a different consciousness that we're inviting people to embody. And so the guidance was that I should go straight to the source, which is Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, and have them channel these teachings for us and what this consciousness is, and that it should become eventually a course, something like A Course in Miracles. And that to me was just amazing. And amazing on so many levels. I was so excited about doing this, and I could feel the profundity of it. And the other part that was really very special to me was that the part of the guidance was that this should be channeled online so that everyone worldwide can participate in actually hearing it when the channeling is being given in real time. So for me, the way that I thought about that is, imagine if you were present when A Course in Miracles was being given. Now, I know not everybody's into A Course in Miracles, but that's just an example. That's what this is like. And, of course, the teaching is different than A Course in Miracles. This teaching is about uniting the masculine and feminine, and particularly the divine masculine and divine feminine within all of us, which means uniting our Christ consciousness and Magdalene love. And so that's what we're really going to be focusing on today, as this is our introductory occasion, is what does that mean to unite the masculine and feminine? What are we talking about? And that's going to be the focus for our channeling later. But now we're going to start with our guided meditation. So I invite you to get into your comfortable meditation posture and to allow your eyes to close. And we're going to begin with relaxing your belly, letting your breath drop all the way down into your pelvis. And relax your shoulders, letting your chest and heart region open. Relax the back of your neck and your jaw so that your head is balanced on the top of your spine. And relax your legs, all the muscles of your legs, but especially the muscles at the tops of your legs. So there's a feeling of connection between the soles of your feet and the crown of your head. And now, placing your awareness in your heart, we're going to take several breaths to and from the heart as though you're breathing with your heart. Breathing in And then exhale and release everything you want to release in this moment with the exhalation. And again, taking a breath in and exhale. And then one last time, breathing in and dropping deeply into your heart space. And then exhale, sending that heart energy out to your whole self. And now, in the company of all light, all love, Supreme Creator, Mother, Father, God, all that is, I call upon all my guides, and in particular, I call upon Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, and invite them to join us today and to communicate to all of the people who have gathered for this event and who will hear this event in the future, to communicate through me and to help us in our spiritual growth and our unfoldment through your guidance, your wisdom, your communications, and your blessing. And thank you so much in advance for joining us today. Blessings, beloveds, this is Yeshua. I am here today with my beloved Mary Magdalene, who I invite to communicate and introduce herself to you now. Hello, dear ones, this is Mary Magdalene. We are both so happy to be here with you. We thank you for calling upon us. We thank you for so many of you coming together to be with us, to listen to our communication, to receive our blessing. And we thank you most of all for your dedication to your spiritual growth and spiritual path, for all the light and love that you are bringing in for yourself and for all beings, and especially for the beings on the earth. We thank you from the bottom of our heart for all of this. And now we would like to ask to hear your questions. What are the questions you would like us to respond to today and to help you with? How may we serve you?
Hello, this is Savannah, and I'm going to be asking questions from our group to you today. How very honored we are that you're here. The first question is, why is uniting the masculine and feminine important?
So this is Mary who is speaking now. We have spoken about this a great deal in the past, and yet we know that this is something that is new for many people, and there may be people who have not heard what we have said in the past. So we are happy to explain as best we can in a way that will work for all. The first thing to understand is that uniting the masculine and feminine takes place on so many levels. When we talk about the union of the masculine and the feminine, we're talking about a very multi-level, multi-dimensional process. We're talking first and foremost about receiving the divine in its fullest form, manifested as the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And so we're talking about relating to the divine and to God as a name for the divine, as both masculine and feminine, completely in union with each other. This is very familiar to some of you, and to some of you less familiar. One example in your world is the idea of the yin-yang sign. and the idea that everything is the union of the masculine and feminine. Both everything in manifestation and everything in the higher dimensions, all the way up to the pure expression of the divine in its source form. Everything is the masculine and the feminine. And yet, you are in a time right now where for a very, very long period of time, there has been a bias in your world toward the masculine and a suppression of the feminine, such that many of you, without even realizing it, are tending to be imbalanced. For the most part, you on the earth, you who are incarnating on the earth at this time, are tending to be more oriented towards the masculine, both outside of yourself and within yourself. And you are tending to be less connected to the feminine. Even those of you who think that you are connected to the feminine, oftentimes there are ways that your programming has affected you, such that you may not even realize it, and you are still coming from a more masculine orientation. And so part of our work at this time is to help people to understand how you have been affected by this program that has been running on the earth for so long of obscuring the feminine and presenting things in predominantly a masculine way. For example, in your spirituality, many of you relate to, have been taught to relate to God in a masculine way, such that you even hear the word God as meaning the masculine, which it does not. It means the masculine and feminine divine. Of course, it is just a word, and everyone relates to words differently. So most likely, when you hear that word, it will bring up whatever your programming is. If you have been programmed to relate to God as the masculine, then when you hear the word God, you will very likely think of a masculine being. But in fact, God is neither masculine nor feminine, and God is completely masculine and completely feminine. All of those are true, and there is no conflict between any of that. And as you evolve in your spiritual consciousness, that will become more and more clear and more simple to all of you. But depending on each individual and their process, that may be more or less clear, that may be more or less simple or complex. So we hope to help you with that, because this is a very important part of the ascension process. And when we talk about the ascension process, we're talking about a grand transition that beings on earth and the earth itself is in the process of right now, of moving into the higher dimensions, beginning with the fourth dimension. And part of what is going to allow all of you to make this transition is through uniting the masculine and feminine. You might say it's a prerequisite, or another way that we like to look at it is that it's your gateway for this transition, is actually accomplishing this uniting of the masculine and feminine. And first and foremost, this uniting happens within each one of you, within yourself. That is the most important place for this union to happen. So I would like to explain a little bit more about how the divine masculine and how the divine feminine manifest within each of you, what that actually means. Each of you have your own inner masculine and feminine, and that's what we're referring to here. We're not referring to men as a gender or women as a gender, because all men and all women all have their masculine and feminine within. So we're addressing all beings, all gendered beings, because everyone has their masculine and feminine. You may be more in touch with one or less in touch with the other, but you all have your masculine and feminine. And there is a more ordinary sense of the masculine and feminine that many of you are familiar with, but there's a more, what you might call, higher form or exalted form, and that is when you're connecting to your sacred masculine or feminine, or your divine masculine or feminine. In this form, the sacred masculine or your inner divine masculine is really the quality of pure transcendence, which you might call transcendental being. And one way of understanding this, and one way that many of you may have experienced the pure quality of the divine masculine, is when you're in meditation. This is the state that many people are striving to attain through meditation, is this state of transcendence. Some people describe it as peace or quiet or stillness. In various of your spiritual traditions, there have been references or names given to it, such as the self, or I'm not thinking of other names in this moment, but I'm sure you are familiar with them. The Eastern traditions in particular, traditions such as Buddhism and Hinduism, have very much focused on this aspect of the divine, the transcendental, or what you might call the divine masculine aspect, as something to attain. Oftentimes, these traditions have tried to support people in connecting with the divine masculine by suggesting that they only connect with the divine masculine and not connect with the divine feminine. We're suggesting something different, but nonetheless, these traditions are helpful because they have been a great support for people in connecting with this quality of reaching the transcendent. Another name is the witness, or witness consciousness. That is a reference that some people know the divine masculine by when they experience it. By contrast is the divine feminine. The divine, I'm going to say, go back a moment to the divine masculine. The divine masculine is prior to space, prior to time. It's prior to all manifestation. It has this complete purity about it. The divine feminine, by contrast, is the essence of manifestation. The divine feminine is the vibratory energy of manifestation. It's manifestation in all its forms, from the densest form, which most of you are experiencing right now as being on Earth, but there are actually even denser forms, but concrete forms such as physicality, all the way up to very subtle forms such as the angelic realm, or very subtle manifestations and experiences that some of you may have had, where you have visions or you hear subtle sounds. All of that is still a part of manifestation. Manifestation is a huge spectrum, from this relatively low frequency of physical manifestation up to a very high frequency of these very exalted planes or dimensions where you experience lights and sounds that feel oftentimes very blissful. And this is one of the qualities of the divine feminine. The divine feminine in her most exalted form is pure love. The divine masculine is pure consciousness. And so in your world, the divine masculine is everything that is manifest, including your body, including your emotions, including your energy, which includes your sexual energy and your sexuality and sexual experiences. It includes all of physicality, all of the world. And if you think about many spiritual traditions, especially in the past, many of these excluded this from spirituality. It wasn't considered spiritual to be connected to your body, or to be emotional or connected to your emotions, or to be engaging sexuality. Those were things that were considered the opposite of spirituality. And often the recommendation was to separate yourself from those things if you wanted to be spiritual. And that is what we're especially interested in addressing, any vestiges of that consciousness, because what that is really referring to is separating from the feminine. And while that has been used in many ways, and one of the ways it has been used is to support people in connecting with the divine masculine, we are suggesting a different path that doesn't require negating either the masculine or the feminine. In fact, it requires embracing both to the point that both can be in their natural relationship with each other, which is a relationship of pure union. And this is the essence of reflection of Mother, Father, God, because Mother, Father, God are absolutely in union with each other always. And all of manifestation is actually reflecting this as long as your consciousness is open to it. So our desire is to help you to shift into this consciousness of understanding what this is in very practical ways for you to unite your divine masculine and feminine. And more than anything else, that work on your part is what is going to change both your own life, but also your entire world and the whole earth realm. Because everything that you do for yourself is always not only affecting the whole, it's creating the whole. And so this is the way this ascension process is going to happen, is by all of you, one by one, doing your work and changing your consciousness, and through that, your reality, your manifestation to this one of total union of the masculine and the feminine. I hope that has been helpful, and I would like to hear what further questions there are about this. And this is Yeshua now. I wish to clarify something. My beloved Mary Magdalene and I often take the roles of the divine masculine and the divine feminine. It is very natural for us to do this. It is very joyful for us to do this, even as we both are fully connected to our own masculine and feminine within. Nonetheless, it is our choice and our joy to rest oftentimes in these positions where I am holding the space of pure consciousness in relation to Mary Magdalene holding the space of manifestation. And so when we are present together, oftentimes it is most natural for both of us, for Mary Magdalene to be the one who speaks, and for me to be the one who is resting in consciousness and sending my blessing from that space. I certainly will speak if there is anything I wish to contribute or to add. But Mary has my full blessings to communicate for both of us, and I am so grateful to her for her brilliance, her wisdom, and her amazing ability to communicate with all. And I recognize and honor her to the highest degree for her service to all beings.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I have another question from one of our attendees today. She's a woman from Maryland, and she says, my understanding is that traditional meditation is a masculine approach to finding God within, as you just mentioned, because it relies on the mind. But what would be a more feminine approach?
This is Mary again, and I also honor and recognize with my fullest heart love and deepest gratitude my beloved Yeshua. And I'm so grateful to his presence in my life and in all of manifestation and the blessing that he brings, which is so immense, so huge. And I want to mention that his work in manifestation was a tremendous surrendering into his spiritual calling to do what he did to manifest in the third dimension and to teach in physical form the way that he did. It is something that all of you will come to understand more and more over time, what that required, the miracle that that was. And I simply wish to clarify that and once again bow down in love to my beloved who has and continues to serve all beings so incredibly. And so with that, I now would like to answer the question that was asked. It is true that the meditation practices that most of you have received have been very much oriented towards the masculine. And this has worked well for many who have a strength in the masculine. For others of you who are not so naturally oriented to the masculine, this has been a challenge. And many of you have come to the place of feeling that perhaps you're not able to meditate, or perhaps you're not able to even practice spirituality because of your difficulty with this type of practice that has been recommended. We feel very sad about that because this is one of the consequences of the feminine being excluded in so many domains, including your spiritual domain in your world, is that it has excluded many of you and brought many of you to even conclude that you weren't able to engage in spirituality, which is never the case. All of you are absolutely able, and it has simply been that your world has not brought forth the fullest picture and has not helped you to understand how to access the path that is best for each person. And so indeed, there are pathways that are more inclusive of the feminine. And what we recommend is that you find the practice, each person find the practice that fits you the best. Ultimately, you will all have to develop your feminine and your masculine. And ultimately, the feminine always leads to the masculine, and the masculine always leads to the feminine. And so by engaging the practice that is most natural for you, if it is a more masculine practice, that will eventually, inevitably lead you to the feminine. And the same is true of a more feminine practice. If it is a true spiritual practice, it will inevitably lead you to the masculine. However, the most direct path and probably the most timely, efficient path in terms of time, what you might call the speediest path, is to engage both your masculine and your feminine to the degree you're able. And so as it is natural for you, it is helpful to engage both. So you may choose to engage the more masculine practices, and you may choose to engage more feminine practices, or you may choose to engage both. That being said, I would like to talk about what these more feminine practices are. If you are drawn to a meditation type practice, and when we use the word meditation, we're simply talking about focusing. It is a focus of the mind, and thus through focusing the mind, there is an inherent masculine aspect to it because it's involving the mind, and the mind is part of your more masculine being. And so anytime you are focusing on something or other, it is a form of meditation. And so if you choose to focus on things that are more involved in the feminine, that will help to bring in more feminine. Some of you do this when you go out in nature and you're focusing on your experience of the natural world. You're focusing on the sounds, the smells, the sights that you're seeing in nature. You're focusing on your connection with nature, which is really Mother Earth and the feminine, the manifestation of the feminine divine in your earth realm. That can be a form of feminine meditation where you're focusing on that. You could even increase it if you were to lie down in nature or rest against a tree with your spine against the tree and really notice your own body, because your body is part of your feminine being in manifestation. And if you were to really experience your body and your feelings and your energy as you're in nature, that is an example of a way you could amplify your reception of the feminine. And for some of you, you do this naturally, and that is a feminine practice. There are other feminine practices that are not so much what you might call a meditation, but they're ways of connecting you with the feminine that take you into your heart. The practices that I gave in the teachings that Mercedes recorded in the first book, Mary Magdalene Beckons, are very much about this. They're practices of making use of your emotions in a very particular way that leads you into your heart and into your heart space and reconnects you with the divine very much in a feminine pathway. So emotions can be used that way. And if you're not sure what I am talking about, reading the book, Mary Magdalene Beckons, may be a great support. Mercedes also offers a class where she helps people to go further into really understanding this process of letting emotions take you to God, and helps people to learn that practice very deeply. And so that's something that we support, is people learning that practice and perhaps taking that class as a way of doing that. There are other practices. There are sexuality practices. That's a very feminine form of connecting with the divine, and sacred sexuality is a pathway that's very much a feminine pathway towards connecting with the divine. And in all of these, there are masculine and feminine components. In sacred sexuality, it's very much about uniting the masculine and the feminine. And there are many masculine aspects to it, such as there's a very clear consciousness practice within sacred sexuality. But overall, as a practice, it leans towards the feminine because it's very much engaging your sexual energy, and that is a feminine manifestation in your world. The same thing can be said of the emotional practice, that it's overall a feminine practice, but it has many masculine aspects too, including very clear consciousness aspects to it, and ways that you use your clarity and your mind to support that practice. So these are very much balanced practices, but they engage the feminine much more strongly than many traditional spiritual practices do. There are also some traditional spiritual practices that are much more in the feminine. For example, shamanic paths have often used very feminine pathways. When they do drumming, when they use sacred substances to transport people in their consciousness into higher realms, those realms are still realms of manifestation, and the experience that people are having in them are very much experiences of the divine feminine in another realm. And so that's an example of a spiritual practice that is based more in the feminine. Again, it has masculine aspects, of course, but it is more oriented towards a feminine practice. So there are many different paths. And again, the recommendation we suggest is find the path that is strongest to you. You will know that because it opens your heart. You feel yourself filled with love, and it opens your higher mind, and you feel yourself resting in consciousness. Those are the signs that that path is supporting you. And then there is a further practice of uniting the masculine and feminine, uniting your consciousness and your love. This happens naturally on its own, but it can be supported with practices too. And this is something that will be given and included as part of this body of work that is becoming the new spirituality that you're calling communion, will be practices that are very specifically oriented towards uniting the masculine and feminine. And we will be making sure that those are clarified and available to all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I have a question now from a man in North Carolina who asks, traditionally, men have been attracted to women because of their youth and beauty, and women have been attracted to men because of their wealth and success. How can we go beyond these limitations?
Thank you so much for this question. This is a question that I think many people have. People who, especially those who are already having some degree of awakening to their spirituality, to the spiritual process, and that this may be limiting them in their opening to love and their opening to consciousness, both in their choice of partners and who they relate to in an intimate partnership, and also in your life and world altogether. And so I would like to speak to this. The first thing I want to say is that these attributes that you're referencing are attributes of the feminine. Beauty, youthfulness, these are attributes of the feminine, and they are wonderful things to be loved and enjoyed. And in fact, when you transition into the fourth dimension, which is a dimension where the primary learning is about manifestation, one of the first and primary things all of you will be becoming adepts at is your own manifestation. And in general, what you will be manifesting is beauty and youth for yourself. And this is a wonderful practice. And if you encounter and have the ability to connect with fourth dimensional beings, you will notice that they are in general very beautiful and very youthful because they have mastered this practice of manifestation. In the third dimension, most people are not yet aware of their ability to manifest youth and beauty or anything else for that matter. And so you are manifesting something different by and large as all of humanity because you have not understood the process of manifestation. I'm digressing a bit from the question, but I want to get back to it because I want to emphasize that there's nothing at all wrong with youth and beauty. These are wonderful, divine qualities to be enjoyed. And yet you do not want to be limited by these. You do not want to be limited to only seeing the outer form, the manifestation, which is the divine feminine that you're seeing, the manifest form. But you want to go to we recommend that you go beyond the limitation of only seeing the physical form, the physical aspect of youth or beauty, to seeing the heart and to being fed by the person's heart and by their consciousness, by their exalted forms of divine feminine and divine masculine. And what you will find when you do this is that these people will begin to become beautiful to you. And you are actually changing your manifestation through that creation of seeing these people as beautiful. You may even see them as youthful. Your reality will begin to change. The same goes for seeing people as wealthy or successful. When you are seated in your heart, when you are seated in your consciousness, you will begin to see the incredible wealth, the incredible success of every being you encounter. Just the fact that they are manifested in the earth realm, just the fact that they are engaging the spiritual work that they're engaging is such a manifestation of the success of their spirituality, of the success of this whole creation process that you are all a part of, and the incredible wealth of having so many beings manifested and bringing their qualities into your world. There's nothing more abundant, nothing more truly filled with wealth than that, when you understand how they are a manifestation of God in human form and bringing that to you in this moment. And so as you all grow, this is what you will be experiencing more and more.
Thank you. That was beautiful. It resonated with me as well. So I hope that question was answered for him. I think that this next question maybe is a good extension of it. This is from a woman in Washington State. She says, I've been divorced twice and a single mother for almost 20 years. Though I've done a lot of personal and spiritual work over the years, I yearn for a partner and a soulmate. Is there anything I can do to attract this special man into my life, to practice a conscious love relationship? And does twin flames or twin souls have anything to do with this?
Thank you for this question. We know that so many souls at this time are longing for what you might call your soul mate, to be fed in the outer dimension by another who complements you in your manifestation of the divine masculine and feminine, who feeds you and in this outer way. And that is so natural in your realm and really in this whole scheme of manifestation, because of the way that is all a reflection of Mother, Father, God. There is this naturalness to wanting to be in union with your divine complement, you might say. It is part of this grand picture, which most likely you are only seeing a portion of at this time. As you access higher dimensions, you will see more and more of this grand scheme, and you will also see more and more of how the divine masculine and the divine feminine are constantly manifesting in myriad ways. But at this point, it may be less obvious to you how that is always going on. And that, too, is completely understandable when a being is manifesting in the third dimension. And so the first thing I want to say is, please don't negate yourself for this heart longing, because ultimately what someone is longing for when they're longing for this is union with God. That is the ultimate form of knowing your wholeness in God as divine masculine and feminine, always in union with each other, and also as what is prior to divine masculine or divine feminine or that union. Now, I can imagine some may be thinking that you feel frustrated being told that you're imagining I'm saying, just unite with God and forget about your desire for a partner. I am not saying forget about your desire for a partner at all. What I am saying is that very likely your desire for a partner will never be satisfied, even if you're in a partnership, until you unite with God. That is the source of your fulfillment of that longing. That is what that longing is really pointing you to. And so I always, and I am quite sure I speak for Yeshua as well, we always urge you to do whatever you need to do and whatever supports you in connecting with the divine masculine and feminine, Mother God, Father God, in union with each other. Divine feminine, divine masculine, however you term it, however you relate to it. Support yourself in that. And when you do that, your reality is going to change. First of all, your level of frustration, if you're not in a relationship, is going to change, and you will be much happier and much at peace. Your level of frustration, if you are in a relationship, will probably also tremendously change if you do that. And you will support that relationship. You will enjoy that relationship, and you will benefit from that relationship so much more if you are sourcing your union through God rather than your partner. The true function of a partnership is to celebrate your prior union with God and to support you in your spiritual path and your manifestation of your spiritual service in this incarnation through that partnership. If you are looking to a partnership to fulfill you in your longing for the masculine or the feminine, depending on which you tend to long for, we suggest taking that as a sign that your work is with God, not with another being, be it a human being or even a being on a subtler plane. Do your work in God, and then you will be guided to what is right for you in partnership. And very likely you will be manifesting a different reality. And if you find that you're not in partnership and you are wanting to be in partnership, that is very often a sign of something that you are creating, that somehow you are creating yourself to not be in partnership, and your longing to be in partnership is pointing that to you as part of your guidance for your spiritual growth, that there is something for you to work with and to evolve with in yourself that is somehow keeping you from being in partnership in the way that you might like. And that is clarifying. That is like a light shining on that to help you to know what your work is to do. Perhaps you are still healing wounding, and there is some way you are protecting yourself from being open to a relationship, because a relationship requires vulnerability and openness. Perhaps there is fear on your part of what would happen if you truly opened yourself. Perhaps there is grief that you have not completed from a past relationship. In general, it will come down to emotions that you need to complete. And this is the emotional work, again, that was talked about in those messages recorded in the book Mary Magdalene Beckons. And for most of you, the emotional work is the biggest area that you are deficient in. It is your biggest block to the feminine. It is your biggest block to having your feminine be strong enough that you can live in your heart stably and unite with the masculine as this stepping stone to the ascension process. And so more than anything else, we urge you to do this work. Become the emotional masters that you on earth were intended to be. And this primarily refers to understanding the pathway when you are in emotional pain, for letting that connect you to your divinity and letting that change you, just the way a river carves out a beautiful canyon. Your painful emotions were meant to grow you. And most of you are still living in fear of your painful emotions, avoiding them, trying to get out of them, or trying to never have them. And you are robbing yourself of the great gift that you still require from your emotions in order to make this spiritual transition of ascending into the higher dimensions.
Wow, thank you for that. Very, very healing. I so appreciate it. I think this next question is from someone who's here in our session today, and she says, as an adult female survivor of childhood sexual abuse, how can I work with my divine masculine or my divine energy to heal? Also, how can I feel more safe to explore and heal using my own sexuality?
I want to begin by expressing my great grief that you have experienced this in your lifetime, and I know that you are not alone. So many have gone through this. We mourn for you, and we understand the challenge that this has been, and we are sorry. This is one of the forms that the suppression of the feminine has taken in your world. Not only that so many will be the recipients of this kind of abuse, but also that so many are so cut off from the feminine that they are led to engage these actions of abuse with others. We greatly mourn this in your world. The first step always is to heal yourself. And this healing must be done very gently and very consciously. As I imagine you have already done a great, great deal of work, even to ask this question, even to be in this place with us today. And I acknowledge that. If there is a sense that there is any more work to do, take such good care of yourself. This is the way you can work with your inner masculine. Call upon your inner masculine to be your protector, to protect you and to take such good care of you, whatever you require. And let your inner masculine be your guide to what is safe for you now. You may not have been able to protect yourself in the past, but let your inner masculine become your protector and begin to step by step build your trust, rebuild your trust with your own inner masculine as you learn to trust yourself again. For this is one of the greatest arenas that victims of abuse suffer, is that they lose trust in themselves. And so this is the place to begin, by very gently and very consciously, through your inner feminine, asking your inner masculine to trust you, and asking your inner masculine to begin to help you to rebuild trust, first and foremost in yourself, and knowing that you can trust yourself. Take as long as you need for that. And when that begins to feel strong and full, then ask your inner masculine to begin to help you to find the guidance for going into the healing of the past event, anything that remains from that. And this may include you finding one or more outer sources that you trust, who can help you, who you trust their ability to help you, their skills to help you, and their safety, that they will provide a safe container for you for healing. And do the work you need to do, which very likely will involve, to whatever extent it is not already complete, grieving what occurred, grieving what you lost through those incidents, all the way through to the other side of finding the place in you that knows what it is to be safe and to receive love that is safe and that you only open to if it is your choice to open to it. And you will find that pathway. It is there in you because you know the loss of it, and you can't miss something that you don't already know what that is on some level. In some part of your being, you know what that is, and it can guide you. And what it's guiding you to is your divinity, because your ultimate safety is in God. Your ultimate love is with God. Your ultimate protection for your choice and your freedom to choose is with God. And that is where the true healing will occur. And when that occurs, you will start to change, and you will be aware of it. Your inner feminine will be aware of it because you will notice the new ways you feel. And your inner masculine will be aware of it because it will be conscious and have the clarity about what is happening to you. And when that has occurred, you will be ready to start to call in a different kind of relationship if you choose. It is not required ever that anyone be in relationship. It is not necessary for all of the wonderful things that are guaranteed to occur for all of you, that you be in relationship to receive those things, including the fullness of divine masculine feminine love. So you will be at choice what is right for you. But at that point, you will be whole and well ready to make that choice and follow through on whatever your choice is. And we offer you our fullest blessings, as we do for all those who have received abuse in this or other forms.
Thank you so very much for that. It brought me to tears. I think we have two more questions that would be important to cover today. Janie, who's here with us today, says, "Beloved Mary Magdalene, I greet you with the deepest devotion. As I am listening to you right now, I am experiencing a familiar fear in my belly of fully inhabiting my feminine self and my feminine power. I know this must have a historical aspect, but would you please speak to this and how to allow myself to be fully in my feminine radiance and love and power? You are always in my heart."
Thank you so much for this question. This is a very pertinent question. It relates in some ways to the last question that was asked, because really you are remembering a form of wounding, a form of pain that you have experienced, be it this lifetime, and most of you have experienced it multitudes of times in every lifetime. Those of you who are incarnated in the feminine as a woman in general have experienced this far more times, and oftentimes are more sensitive to it, more aware of it than those who are manifesting in the male gender, in male bodies, in both. But it is true of both genders. It is true of both. It is true of everyone that you have experienced wounding relative to the feminine. And out of that, there is pain and there is fear of reopening again. So your wounding may not have been in the form of sexual abuse. It may have been in the form of the infinite number of other ways it could have happened, of being told that you can't do certain things because of being a woman, or being told that you shouldn't manifest certain things because those are lesser and they're the feminine things, such as being emotional, or being who knows what, or just being withheld from access to the feminine in so many ways, because denial is a form of a very clear communication that something is not acceptable when it's denied, when it's suppressed. And so, if nothing else, everyone has received this through the consciousness that has been programmed in by so many at the third dimension. And so you are one speaking this who is sensitive to this. As all of you become more and more sensitive, very likely more and more of you will be aware of this challenge in opening to the feminine, that there is fear of being wounded, of being hurt again. And the feminine part of you in general is your more vulnerable part. Not to say that men can't be vulnerable. It is saying that men and women, when they're vulnerable in this feeling way, are coming from their inner feminine aspect. And so this is where you do the process that I have taught. And I will talk about this process briefly in this example. You let yourself go into this place, and for you, you are saying it is in the pit of your stomach. Find where it is in your body and relax that place in your body, and allow yourself as much as you can to go into that place in a physical way and also in an emotional way. Let yourself merge with the feeling that is manifesting, which in this case is fear. And this is very different from the instinctive tendency when you feel fear. The instinctive tendency is the fight or flight mechanism. It's, I'm in danger, I might be killed. And so it's to go into action, to jump out of the fear and protect yourself in some way or other. But we are not doing the instinctive response here. We're doing a conscious spiritual response. And so it may feel like you're going against your natural instincts, and to some level you are. But you are going into a spiritual response. So you open yourself in your belly, in your fear, and you let yourself merge with the fear. And from that place of opening and merging with the fear, there is a simple process, a more direct process. The more direct process is to open to God in that place, the place of uniting with the fear, and to let God guide you. And you may get a message, and you may get a vision, you may get sensation that guides you and tells you what to do. But more than anything else, you have reconnected with God, because what you are suffering is not the fear, you are suffering your disconnection from God. So that is one option, is that simple process. There is a process that is slightly more complex, but even though it's more complex, for many of you, this is easier. So we also offer this. The second option begins the same way. You let yourself go into the feeling, the bodily feeling and the emotional feeling of the fear. And then from that place, you use your consciousness to inquire as to what the source of the fear is, knowing that the source of the fear is not the outer experience, it's your own disconnection from God in one or more particular forms that God manifests within you, what I have called one of your inner divine qualities. I am guessing in this circumstance, it is your inner divine quality of safety and well-being. The inner divine qualities are always beautiful because they're an aspect of your union with God. As I said before, safety and also well-being is the same. These are attributes of being fully in union with God. And in God, this is where you find your true safety and your true well-being. So, back to our example. You open to the fear, you let yourself merge with it. From that place, you inquire what is the source in your inner divine qualities, and you let yourself discover these. And this is the process that Mercedes is teaching in her course, and this is the skill that is very valuable to develop, and I'm not going fully into it now because of time constraints. But if you were to do this through the course or through another means, it would become clearer how you connect with these inner divine qualities. I am simply going to say at this point that you can. So let us say that the inner divine qualities, the accurate ones for this situation, are safety and well-being. Then you rest in your knowingness of safety and well-being. For some, this may be very direct. Simply by connecting with the inner divine qualities, there's this sense of dropping in where you know what it's like to experience safety and well-being. For some, you may need a little help. It might help to remember a time when you felt safe, when you experienced well-being. Or it may help to have an image of what that looks like. Whatever works for you, connect with the place in yourself where you know the already fulfilled state of safety and well-being. And when you've connected with that, rest in that. And as you rest in that, bring back in the original situation. In this case, the original situation of opening to your divine feminine. And you will notice you feel differently. You will notice that the feelings have changed. If you have connected with the actual inner divine qualities that you were previously disconnected from, that reconnection will now bring about a state of peace. And you will experience peace. And you also may experience a kind of energized activation where suddenly you have ideas about how you can go about this, how you can further support your well-being and your safety as you connect to your inner divine quality. As you connect to your inner feminine. And that those ideas and that feeling of being activated and energized is your guidance that you are ready to move forward in a different way.
Thank you so much. That was so helpful. Okay, I think this might be a good last question. Since we're low on time, it seems like the right one. What is the purpose of spirituality, and is there any ending point of evolution or consciousness? Is it something like freedom? Where is it all going?
Well, from the feminine point of view, the purpose of spirituality is to feel a whole lot better than you do right now. That's why I was laughing.
All right.
Can you imagine feeling absolute bliss, absolute love all the time? Would that be attractive?
Yes.
I imagine so. From the masculine point of view, I will let Yeshua speak for this. This is Yeshua speaking. From the masculine point of view, nothing is more wonderful than abiding as pure consciousness. And from the masculine point of view, there is absolutely no difference between the pure feminine, absolute love, and the pure masculine, complete consciousness. They are two sides of the mirror, two sides of the coin. You are always already both. And so, in some sense, there is nothing to attain, as many of your spiritual practices have suggested. But you have all chosen to come into this manifest form where your consciousness is limited. You consciously chose, and through that choice, you manifested, and now your consciousness is reflecting the manifestation that you chose. This is a bit of a sticky wicket, you might say. And so there's a part of you that remembers something higher. That part of you is your higher self. And that part of you is calling you to change your consciousness, and through that your manifestation. To change your manifestation, and through that your consciousness. It is calling you to this spiritual process. All are called. All are actually responding in their own way, in their own form that is right for them at this time. And so it is to each of you to respond. You can't help but do it. You are doing it. And yet, in the third dimension, you have free will. And so part of your spiritual journey in the third dimension is to engage your free will to support this wonderful process of uniting in and as God. It doesn't make sense to your mind. I recommend listening to your heart and your consciousness, and let that be your guide.
Thank you so much. We've come to the end of our time, and I'm hoping that you will be able to provide us all with a blessing before you go.
This is Mary Magdalene. I am speaking for my beloved Yeshua and myself, and we are both very, very honored and very willing to send a blessing to all of you who are with us in this time right now and will be in the future. And so we will take about a minute in silence to send our blessing to all of you and ask that you simply open your hearts, open your minds, open your beings to receive our blessing. And now this is Mercedes speaking again, and I offer my deepest gratitude and thanks to Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, and to all the guides that have been here with us today, but especially to Yeshua and Mary for your tremendous love, wisdom, and blessings and help. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
If you enjoyed this unbelievably beautiful channeling as much as I did, then you'll want to take a look at joining the channeling sessions that are going to be offered. They start on May 15th and they'll go through August. There is a special price for you, and all of this is on the website. It's going to be 2 Sundays a month for 4 months. And I invite you to please go to Mercedes Kirkel, to the events page, and you'll be able to see that. Many of you have asked questions that were quite personal in the Q&A part, and I would highly recommend that you contact Mercedes about doing private sessions with you to answer those really deeply personal questions. I wanted to just also bring your attention to those of you who are really aligned with this message and would like to travel with Mercedes to this southern France region where it said that Mary spent some of her last days there and her teachings there. I would invite you to take a look at this beautiful trip. I'll be going. I've been there before. It's a very magical place. So there's also a Heart Path course, the Magdalene Heart Path course, that is available to you, and that is also available in the calendar section on the website. So that really completes our presentation for the day. I want to thank everyone so much for attending. There was 135 of you out there. So that's just amazing, and so many good questions. We'll be getting into these in future channelings. Thank you. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Mercedes. And thank you so much, Yeshua and Mary Magdalene, for being with us today.
Okay, heart blessings to all of you. Bye-bye.